Hey guys, welcome back. Um, I've been wanting to do this video for quite some time, but I haven't understood how the best way to frame it, to write it down. So I figured I'd just, shoot from the hip, just have you and me right here. No more of this or kind of talking like this, right? Because that's bullshit. That's not authentic. That's not what people want or how to talk to people, right? So I figured I would just use this camera as, the ultimate, sorry, I'm gonna minimize this, the ultimate tool as just the mirror and talking to myself. Not talking to you, I'm just talking to myself about kind of life and, where I'm at, a lot of people are at, and, it's sorry, I'm trying to pull up my notes at the same time. So if you'll just bear with me on this. But yeah, I've just wanted to talk about life for a second. And feel free to click away, feel free to just this isn't my thing, that's fine. I get that. Every video is for a different person, and right now I guess I'm making this video for me because I'm pretty lost right now. Um, I fell off a really good situation where I was making the most money I've ever made in my life. And it's even funnier that I got laid off right as I was about to even make even more money than I'd ever made in my life, which was around $103,000. So, and this is just me being truthful, right? Talking to myself, talking about life advice, things I say to myself to keep myself going, keep myself motivated, because the stark reality of it is that life is pretty goddamn hard, and it's not really going to be easy. It's not going to be tough. It's going to come in waves because life is like that. It's like changing seasons because when things are going good, people could care less about what other people are going through or, you know, what else is going on in the world because you are straight. You got everything going for you. And, you feel like that classic, you know, it just feels like, I don't know how else to say it, but,
I
um,
am back. What it do, baby?
right? We just got all this enthusiasm and all this just, we're just ready to go, And I've been laid off more times than I can remember. And that's always just been the case. Whether you do good, whether you do bad, it doesn't really matter because it's not your company, it's not your payroll, you're not paying the taxes, you're not paying the hourly labor. So I do understand that aspect of it. And thank God I honestly did pick up on these life lessons earlier rather than later because hey, we're all seeing it now, whether you're a computer programmer, an infosec guy. It seems like either way that, the work is getting offshored. Maybe AI is taking a hand in the automation aspect. And I mean, especially in California or states where it's, the right to work, or at will employment. I guess right to work isn't the correct phrase because that's just a fun phrase to discriminate against unions, right? Forming a union. So, um, but yeah, I felt this for quite some time. So when I did make it to that place, I walked into work every day scared shitless because I'm a realist. You know, you can crap in one hand or you can wish in the other. You tell me which one gets full first. I hate to be so crude, but sometimes we have to use these crazy examples in order to get the point across, just to illustrate what the hell's going on. And when I did start making this money, it was incredible. And at the same time, I forced myself to see that the reality is that you could be let go at any time because it doesn't matter how awesome your manager is. It doesn't matter all of the recommendations your coworkers are going to give to you because when you're laid off or fired, all of that caring family lovey-dovey stuff goes out the window. And you were never a family. I get that. It's the whole cliche that we're a family here, but I realized because I've been through that cycle so much that when you get into a place where it's really good, that's the exact opposite time of when it's time to floss, of when it's time to ball out, so to speak. Don't get me wrong, I'm all for balling on a budget, right? Like you can have good food, you can have things on your terms because you can pay for it when you want. And again, this isn't the time to go buy a fancy car or do things that you may not even be sure about in the next couple of years. So it really is a time to build quietly. And I did that. I put money away in my high yield savings account, just for example. I know it's not much, but it's like accruing $90 a month in interest, right? And I did always hear about that for the longest time. You got to have the emergency fund. You got to have the life fund. You got to have the emergency fund, right? So, but how do you build the emergency fund when if you have a job and every single dollar goes to bills or just cost of living and it's just squeezed like a lemon, and all the juice is just gone. So, yeah, I mean, I took that time to stack as much money as I could, and I'm so thankful I did because I mean, I'm not happy. Make no mistake about this. I'm not happy with my current situation, but I'm not going to deny the reality that the situation is at the same time. Because if we do that, we might as well just go sit on the street and just cry and whine and ask for other people's pity and donations. And that's even worse than this, if you ask me. That is just feeling like. So just remember that when things are good, it's the time to prepare for when things aren't good. Because when things aren't good, more often than not, you're not in a good place or the place that you need to be to at least be saving more or when you're in those dark times, that's when you're frugal and living beyond your means, under your means. Sorry, living under your means. Because how would you survive on $450 a week and be told that, oh, this is a great economy, everything is great, we're hiring at a crazy amount of jobs. But the reality is that very few people want to acknowledge and talk about is that all of these jobs are being made in hospitality, senior living centers, and a little bit of healthcare, because that is what is driving the job market right now. Us just consuming like we always do, and now it's a $25-$30 hamburger without the cheese at a restaurant. So just makes me think, like I said, kind of life is like seasons, and good seasons aren't, permanent. Nothing in life is permanent. I mean, there's certain things you could say, but taxes and death, right? Those are permanent. Those are constant. But yeah, when things are good, you need to be preparing for the bad. So when the bad does come, you're able to protect yourself, you're able to protect your family because you might not even have the strength mentally and physically to get back up on that horse because sometimes we're only going to say that, well, I've my living expenses are so, you know, just out there that I'm unable to take a job because I get that. It's like if you took a job and your bills and it wasn't going to pay your bills, you'd be losing money essentially. I mean, you're losing money without being a job, but what's the point of working if you can't cover your nut, right? So I like to use this time to just save my energy. I'm trying to build skills. Um, doing the best I can to strengthen my relationships with, my friends and my family, my wife, my mom, who I take care of. And that's a whole nother can of worms right there. Because if you're a caregiver, then, already you have the anxiety of just living in this kind of societal norm where everything is tied to your job and your job can go away like that. And, you know, life's not going to warn you when a tsunami is coming, right? You very, very rarely people realize that the sea is going back out. And it's only once we have this enormous tidal wave that's just feet away from us do we then start thinking, holy crap, I got to start preparing. I got to get ready. This is going to land any second. And a lot of times it's too late. I'm not trying to be sad and doom and gloom. I'm okay. I built up like between a 3 and 6 month, buffer, so to speak, with my emergency fund, and that's helped me stay in my house with my wife. And I I've gone through over 600 applications, and the stark reality is that there aren't a lot of high paying jobs out there right now. They say maybe 10% of people are making that 100 to over $100,000 a year. So it's just it's it's humbling, and I'm no stranger to being humbled. That's life. It's just going to kick you in the teeth like a mule. So I mean, just understand this, that life is just a passing of different seasons. Sometimes we're in spring, then we're going to summer and fall and December and winter, sorry. December. And, you know, it's tough out there. I never thought I'd even make it this far in life. I honestly thought I would be living under a bridge or something with just how this education system just tries to cram you through its system. And if you get pushed between the cracks, so be it. The system's got to keep going on, right? And we'll just separate you because you're lesser than. And if that doesn't take a toll on your self worth and self esteem, then I don't know what will. When the people who are there to try and teach you and, I don't know, have you learned something, when they are told that you're not worth, you know, that you're worth giving up on, that's a very tough thing to deal with. And I've dealt with that a lot. I'm still dealing with that. I still deal with depression. Some days it's worse than others. Some days I can manage. But here's the reality. No one is going to have these honest conversations. Everyone's going to be an animated person on here. Everyone's going to be talking about, oh my God, did you see what they did? But I live in reality because all of that stuff is just noise that's just meant to distract and divide us. And it's fine. I get it. We're nothing more than, a civilized ape, basically. And everyone is our enemy who does not rock exactly with our ideology or with what we think is right and wrong in the world. And I was thinking about that. Everybody's talking about this Minnesota stuff about, well, what was right? Well, what was legal? You can't legally run someone over. Well, you could legally, grape your wife back in the day, or you could legally beat her with a stick that was, as long as the stick wasn't thicker than your thumb, that was considered legal. Was that considered right, though? You tell me. And we're all burning ourselves out and just living with this anxiety that I have to make it. I have to do something with my life. I can't be here and not have made it. And yeah, sorry, my neighbors. But something that helped me get through, you know, realizing life, it's not always that we're going to be the first one at the front of the line. We're not going to be LeBron James. We're not going to be Michael Jordan. We're not going to be Wayne Gretzky. We're not going to be Pele, right? Whatever you want to, we're simply doing the things that we need to do in order to move forward, step by step. And this takes years. Okay? It's not going to happen overnight. And even when it doesn't happen, in those amount of years, we often think that I can't move on, I can't do something different because that sunken cost fallacy, right? That I've put so much time into it, and if you're not going to change up and do something different, then you're pretty much doomed to repeat the same thing over and over, as is the definition of insanity. But here's what I like to think about, that life works in seasons. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, sometimes it's really mundane and boring, and we're just trying to get to the next cycle. And don't assume this thing ends bad. Okay, it's we're all on our own life journey. We're all on our own path. Not everyone is going to get there at the same time. Not everyone's going to get to the same place. But as long as we are able to recognize these facts that, hey, I'm trying, I matter, even if the system says you're not worth a $15 an hour job, whatever the case is, right? So, like I said, when things are good, don't assume it's going to last forever, because when has things ever lasted, permanently forever in someone's favor, right? And when things get bad, we need to also understand this isn't the end, okay? This is just a pause, a break in between the seasons. And something that I say to myself and I realize is that I know these are outlier cases, but hey, these have kept me going. These are my personal little anecdotal stories. And for instance, let's just say Bryan Cranston, right? Breaking Bad, Walter White, Hal from Malcolm in the Middle, right? He was working his ass off, getting bit parts for his entire career. He didn't get Malcolm in the Middle till his mid to late 40s, okay? And then in his late 50s, I believe, he got Breaking Bad. And now he's, known producer. He's a name that people will go to see if the movie is good. And let me see, who are other? I know there's one more I'm thinking about. Harrison Ford, that's a good one I was thinking about. He had this story that he basically came to Hollywood back in like the 60s or 70s. And he basically was this analogy of, you get off the bus with all of these other people who want to do the same exact thing as you. And you're all working hard to get the same exact roles in the same exact industry. And a lot of times, you're not going to hit it right off the bat, right? Because that's just the nature of life. I mean, unless you're Melania Trump and you produce your own movie and, you get points, but then you're going to be released in the dump months, right? In January. So my thoughts are that her documentary will be about 40%, and that's on the high mark, right? But Harrison Ford understood that this is a very crowded space when he got here. And he realized that you need to have a cash trade. You need to fall back on something. And he was a carpenter. And just like Luck, he was working on someone's house who was a producer, and that's kind of what got him in. Meanwhile, everyone else that started that journey with him, they couldn't hack it. They didn't have something to fall back on, and that they quit. And it was only until enough people who he was going up against for the same roles quit because he was able to fall back on a skill, a trade, and able to buy himself time to make it to that next level. So they say Gerard Butler, he originally had plans to become a lawyer, but ultimately became an actor after finding success in his 30s and early 40s. And that's when he began. So, Larry David, that's my other one. Larry David is now a billionaire, okay? And Larry David didn't amount to shit until his late 40s. He was driving a cab, he'd got fired from every job he worked at, and it wasn't until him and Seinfeld came up with, the show together that really just put him on the map. And then, of course, Curb Your Enthusiasm and everything else. But I know these aren't what we want to hear, but this helps give me perspective. I hope it gives you perspective because a lot of times right now in life, even though I've made it to being a homeowner, I'm happily married. I've I feel like a failure a lot of times. I feel like I've failed at so many aspects in life, whether it's not having a kid, not having a bigger house, not being able to stay at a company for long enough to actually feel like I actually bring some net value to the company. And everyone says just start your own company. Just start your own company. Yeah, I wouldn't know the first thing too. My father's a serial entrepreneur, and I don't think he's taught me one thing as far as being an entrepreneur. Kind of pisses me off, but whatever. I mean, water's under the bridge, the milk's been spilt. You're either going to move on with life and just enjoy the time you have and the little time you have on this rock. So I don't even understand. It's how some people, everyone's different. Everyone has their own perspective. I've seen these videos where people just talk about how, you know, they've made it even as a YouTube creator, and that's pretty hard too. I don't consider myself like a creator at this point. I just consider myself just dicking around, making a couple videos and talking to you guys. So that's kind of all I wanted to say about today is just no matter how tough life gets, you just got to keep going forward because typically there's people who are depending on you and they're depending on you as well. So It's not as bad as it seems. It's just bad right now. I don't know what else to tell us. I could tell us that everything is dark and gloomy and that the United States is going to collapse between 2026 and 2030 because most societies only last on average 250 years, and that, the debt has been ran up for the last 50 or 60 years. But what what can we do about that? Nothing. That is completely outside of our purview. It's outside of our control. All we can do is just live in this, oversaturated environment where it's just everything's constantly refreshing and nothing's giving you a break anymore. It's just taxing, 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 both physically and emotionally. And it's really sad that we have to live in a world where we're already this burnt out, exhausted, and anxious that we allow these mega monopoly companies to just easily divide us, you know, be it race, be it religion, be it culture, be it economics. But that's a talk for another day, as I'm sure you've seen in my other videos. Anyways, I hope this helped in some regards. I hope I didn't depress you guys too much. If you guys like what I'm saying, if you like what I'm putting down, let me know in the comments to just have some more real talks like this, or just go back to the content, where I'm performing like a little spider monkey bouncing off the walls for you guys. So, um, yeah, stay safe. I hope you guys have a great Sunday evening. I hope you're spending it with people you love, your friends or your family. And yeah, I hope you guys have a good week. All right, stay safe.